So, my name is Nick Askew from Conservation Careers, and this session is all about unlocking clarity, confidence, and a plan for your career in 2026 and beyond. And what we're going to do over the next hour is keep things super practical. And we're going to keep things as grounded as possible, and I'm here to deliver as much value as possible. So, before we kind of dive into the content, okay, and get going proper, I want you to kind of jump into the chat. So you can find the kind of chat button, the box, okay, alongside, and just tell me, whereabouts are you right now? Okay, what city or country are you in? I'd love to kind of hear from you in the comments. So I'm Nick. I'm in Cambridge. I'm in the UK. Where are you? Okay, so we've got who we got. We've got Kate Evans. Okay, in Sweden. Hey, Kate, good to see you. We've got Jake in Dublin. We've got, oh my gosh, you're going so quick. Let me just show my screen here so you can kind of see what's going on. Got someone from Ethiopia, Arizona, Hampshire, Zambia, okay, Ottawa, Dorset, Michigan, New York, Senegal. I saw there, Canada, Madrid. My word, Benin, you are an international bunch and you are all extremely welcome. It's lovely to have you with us, okay? Now, our audience at Conservation Careers, we've got an annual audience of about 1.2 million people, okay? So you really do reflect our wider community. We're very much international in focus. We support conservationists, job seekers, students, professionals across 235 countries and territories each year. Okay, so you are in good company, and it's lovely to have such a diverse international audience with us. Right, next question. Okay, love to see more people joining as well. Now, let's find out who's in the room. Okay, so which best describes you? Okay, are you a job seeker? Are you a student? Okay, are you a career switcher? A professional conservationist, or are you something else? Again, jump into the comments. We'd love to kind of know who you are and see who's in the room with us here this evening. So, job seeker, student, switcher, professional, or other. Okay, let's see who we've got. Okay, I can see job seeker, Greg, Inns, job seeker, switcher, KTH, Erica, job seeker also. Okay, we've got Charles Berg, is that right? I'm seeing it here on screen. You're a student job seeker as well. Welcome. That's great. Okay. So quite a mix, actually. Quite a few job seekers, quite a few students, switchers in there too. Welcome, welcome all of you. Now, as you're kind of typing in and reflecting on who you are, I just want you to kind of know that you're not alone. Okay. We support all types of aspiring and professional conservationists here at Conservation Careers. Most people here are navigating career uncertainty at some level, okay, and that's completely normal, okay. So this session really is designed for you. As you can see here, kind of on screen over there, 48% of our audience, typically about half, are job seekers, and I think we're sort of seeing that in the comments. We support a large number of career switchers and welcome all you switchers amongst us. Jessica, Hannah, Nicola, Sophie. It's really nice to have you with us as well, Suzanne as well. About a quarter of our audience are students, and about 15% or so are also professionals. And obviously those ebb and flow, but we support a real diverse range of different people. So welcome all of you. Gosh, there's such a lovely bunch of you there. Right. Okay. Next question. Okay. And how clear do you feel about your career direction right now? Okay. Do you feel, number one, do you feel like very unclear, okay, in terms of you're not really sure at all? And there are no wrong answers here, okay? I just want to say that up front, okay? Are you number two? Do you have some ideas, but perhaps you're a little bit confused, okay? Perhaps you are number three. Perhaps you're fairly clear, but you're not confident, okay? Perhaps you're number four. Yeah. Are you really clear, but you're unsure about your next move forwards, okay? Or are you number five, very clear and very confident? I can see the numbers kind of rocking in there really quickly. I can see quite a few threes and twos, a four as well. Again, it's great. Yes, it's been recorded for later as well. Great. Okay. Lots of fours, lots of twos as well. Thank you for sharing. A good diversity, a good mix in there as well. Great. So why is it that, conservation can feel quite hard, and sometimes we can sometimes feel a little bit, lacking direction, a bit uncertain as well, and be sort of sat in those sort of twos and threes, or maybe even a one as well? Well, conservation careers, what we learn and what we see often is it's a little bit like this image here. Let's go full screen on that. Okay. It can feel like, you start off with a bit of an idea, a dream, okay, and somewhere you want to get to, and that then meanders. We're not talking about linear careers here. We're not talking about careers with many signposts either within conservation. You might go through a degree, maybe some volunteering, perhaps even a master's or even a PhD. You might have a job, an internship, perhaps a midlife crisis along the way, and so forth. And that dream job actually might be kind of a disappearing horizon or feel that way in front of you. Feeling stuck is not really often about a lack of clarity or a lack of motivation, I could say. It's more about being uncertain as to what your next step might be. And we're on a mission here at Conservation Careers to create pathways within conservation, okay, to provide clarity, direction, and confidence for people seeking to save the planet for their day jobs, just like you. Even why work in conservation at all? I think it's worth just asking that question before you really dive into the content of what we're talking about here this evening. Well, conservation, yeah, can do a few things. One is it can provide a real strong sense of purpose and meaning. Okay. There's very few careers out there that provide that clarity of purpose and meaning that I think conservation sector does provide. Also, I mean, wildlife, it really does urgently need you. Wildlife and people need skilled conservationists out there doing our best work, okay, achieving career success and helping wildlife to thrive. And that's our mission at Conservation Careers. And also, it's never too late to kind of move into this sector, to move into this direction. Okay. There's always a good chance to kind of leave a lasting legacy from any time, from any starting point. Now, it might not be right for everyone, and we're really not here to kind of glorify conservation as a perfect place everyone should be working. Okay. But if you're in need of support and clarity and direction, then we're here to help. And we're really happy to have you here with us today. Now, before we get to the content, I just want to kind of highlight a few little things, a little bit of housekeeping for this evening. Okay. So before we get started, if you can, reduce distractions as much as possible, okay? Because we're going to kind of dive into some contents and frameworks. I'm going to ask you to kind of be reasonably interactive. So as you've already seen this evening, we're going to get you involved, we can get you thinking. And I'm going to ask you to take notes at certain points as well, where things I think are going to be really important for you to reflect upon and also to kind of share back. And at the end, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A as well. I'm going to leave time at the end. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that we kind of finish within the bounds of the hour that we set for ourselves. And I'll hang around afterwards and happily answer any questions that we might have for ourselves too. So why even listen to me at all, and why conservation careers more generally as well? So over the last 25 years, and yes, I am that old, okay, I've completed a PhD on these bad boys, on barn owls, and I've worked on wildlife conservation projects, both here in the UK and also internationally, whilst also working in the academic, the public, the private, the charity, and the enterprise sectors. Okay, the top five. I've also been a volunteer, a scientist, a consultant, a communicator, a fundraiser, and an educator, amongst other things. So I've really got around. And I've raised over $3 million for conservation projects across the globe and largely in the Pacific region as well. And during my career, I've been asked many times, how do I get a conservation job? And I felt 13 plus years ago that there should be much better career support, advice, and training for people seeking to work within wildlife conservation and to flourish and thrive within it. Okay. And that's really why I founded Conservation Careers, to answer that question. How do I get a conservation job? Now, since then, we've helped thousands of aspiring and professional conservationists to get clear, to get ready, and to get hired. And we're here to help you also. Each year now, we teach at Cambridge University career planning for mid-career conservation professionals. We also teach at the Durrell Conservation Academy and elsewhere. Okay. Now, also over the last 13 years, we've spoken to around about 500 plus professional conservationists to really understand the route into and through conservation. Okay. And we've compiled that advice from people like you can see here on screen. So from the CEOs, the director generals, the chairmen and the chairwomen of WWF, of IUCN, the International Union Conservation of Nature, Natural England, BirdLife International, Fauna and Flora International, Rewilding Europe, the RSPB, and so many more. Okay. And this really has formed the foundation of our principles, our frameworks, and the trainings, and many of the things I'm going to talk about here together this evening. So what are we going to cover? What we're going to cover the next hour? We're going to cover these things you can see here on the screen. Okay. So we're going to start off by busting 4 myths, okay, about working in conservation, things that you might be bringing with you, assumptions you might be holding. And I just want to kind of tackle them head on and move them out the way. Okay. Then we're going to talk about assessing your key obstacle personally, like, what obstacles might be in front of you? What is the important obstacle? Okay. And how might we help you to overcome that? Then we're going to help you to identify your niche. We're going to talk quite a bit about the importance of niche and why it's important to have a target job or jobs, or at least direction, when you're planning for your career this year and beyond. Then we're going to talk about how to place you on what we call the conservation pathway. Okay, we'll talk about that in much more detail about where you might be in your career development. So you understand where you are, where you're on strong ground, when you're on shaky ground, and what your next strong step might be, helping you to get clear and helping you to get confident. And then we're also going to have time for Q&A at the end. Okay. My goal for you is what you can see here on screen. So by the end of the session, I want you to feel clearer about your direction in conservation and confident about the one meaningful next step you can take here in 2026 and beyond. Okay. Is it too late to say Happy New Year? I think it probably is, isn't it? We're nearly into February now. Right. So let's start with these four myths. Okay. Myth number one. Okay. The first one is that thinking that conservation is all about kind of tackling and studying charismatic species like sharks and turtles and lions in perhaps, fantastic or interesting places. And absolutely, yes, these jobs do exist. Okay. And if you are passionate about them, you should follow your passion forwards. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. But what I want to kind of address here is that the conservation sector, it's a growing professional industry that has an overwhelming number of different roles available. Okay, really with something to suit everyone. Now, over the last, even 5 or 6 years, we've shared over 40,000 job titles, okay, on our website from over 120,000 jobs, individual jobs. And the vast majority of conservationists, do this sort of stuff. They work inside, behind desks, and we're not all scientists. We are project managers, we're fundraisers, we're communicators, we're website designers, we're scientists, we're ecotourism operators, we're rangers, and we're so much more. There really is a role to suit everyone, and your challenge is really to identify and become competitive for it. Okay, and really that is a big part of what we're going to talk about this evening, and really the foundation of solid career planning. Now, myth number two, okay, is thinking you need to spend hundreds of hours or even thousands of hours and thousands of pounds and dollars and euros and whatever your local currency might be in order to get experience. And this can feel like a real kind of catch-22 where you can't get experience without a job and you can't get a job without experience, right? And it can be really frustrating. Yeah. And really what I want to kind of focus on here and get you to think about is, well, firstly, experience can be really valuable in your career development. Absolutely. It provides evidence of your competency. So you can show to an employer that you can do something, you have done something, you can do it for them too. Not that you know about something, but you can and have done it. Okay. It also helps you to network, to meet like-minded people, okay, doing similar work that you are equally passionate about. And you can learn from them and they can support you and you can support them. Really important networking and making friends. It also enables you to kind of try before you buy. Okay. So it's part of the exploration step of understanding where your career path might be taking you and where your niche or your direction might be. But I think the common mistake really is thinking it's all about, the more the merrier, and being quite unfocused in your volunteer or your internships. Really, the key here is, it's getting the right experience. Okay. And that really depends upon your target job. Okay. If you know your target job, you can identify and fill any experience gaps for that one specifically. Okay. So these experiences, they can help to provide evidence for your skills and showcase to employers you're ready for the job. Okay. However, what we need to bear in mind is that, quality, let's get this right, beats quantity every time when it comes to experience. Okay. So focus really on getting the right experience, the right training for your chosen role will really help you move the needle and being quite strategic about that. And before we move on from experiences, I just want you to bear in mind, you don't need to spend money on experiences. Yes, you can, and that can actually secure some really good quality experiences. It can also secure some really bad experiences too if you're not careful. Okay. And you probably know that. Okay. But really don't need to spend money. Okay. You can create your own, you can do research, you can reach out to the right people and create a volunteer and internship for yourself. And we have a course coming really soon that's already in the can. We're just editing it right now about how to get conservation experiences that can kind of walk you through that framework. Right. Step or myth number 3 out of 4 is that there aren't many conservation jobs available. Okay. And this one, you might be feeling that, you might be thinking that you can't find the right job. Okay. But really, the conservation sector, it is a booming sector right now. Okay. Let me put myself up there. So we've listed, 120,000 jobs plus in recent years. That really is still the tip of the iceberg and it is set to increase. Okay. I really believe that. And the signs are all there. Now, many employers, why is it we don't see so many jobs widely available? It's because many of the employers are actually fairly small charities. The sector is quite dominated by charities. It includes all the different employer types, but charities form a large part of that, and small charities form a large part of the charity as well. They don't often have big budgets for advertising, and their opportunities often don't get really widely promoted online, which is why it can feel sometimes that there aren't many jobs available. Now, the final myth number 4, let's get that right, okay, is I want to touch on is thinking that you need a conservation background to work in conservation. And I think really I'll let other people speak for themselves here. This is my old boss from BirdLife International when she was CEO. She's now Conservation International's chief executive vice president. This is Patricia Zarita. Okay. And she said to me when we were talking about this, the key skills that we need are completely outside of the conservation community. They're in the private sector. And I really do believe that. And more we're seeing senior management, hiring from outside the conservation industry in. Okay. Someone else that you might even get to know through us, and we'll be doing a webinar with this person very soon, Lloyd Goffin. He's our expert in residence for communications and now the director of the Sussex Dolphin Project, when we helped her switch careers. He said it really well, actually, also on our podcast. He said, since my career switch, I've seen firsthand that we need a whole range of skills in this fully functioning and expanded sector. There really is a role for you. Okay. And I think really the message here is that, organizations, they hire for fit. Okay. And your background, although you might not see it and appreciate it, and Lloyd didn't see it and appreciate it when we started working with him, first of all, is that really it's a fully expanded sector, and really your background really can be a strength for you, and positioning really matters for that. Okay. Right. Okay. So let me just move on to here. Okay. Great. So let's kick things off then and really start thinking about um, talking through a quick framework so you can assess where you are in terms of securing your dream conservation job. So, as an aspiring or as a professional conservationist, you can often face some really key obstacles in moving forward quickly into your dream job. So, what are the obstacles? And really, I think when we think about it, there are kind of three big ones. Okay. The first one in securing or moving forwards towards your ideal job is that we often see a lack of clarity as to which job to target. Okay. And we touched on this already, but the problems really here are there is a really diverse and bewildering job market, right? It's growing all the time. We've talked about that a little bit. So it can be really hard to figure out where you might fit in, like where's the alignment? It's very easy to kind of get lost and stuck and perhaps even give up before you've even started. To solve this, you really need a kind of good understanding of your career needs and also the job market from the ground up. And we'll talk a little bit more about that very soon. Now, the second obstacle is a lack of planning or lack of a plan and knowing exactly what steps to take to become employable for your chosen role. Now, problems around this are really that without a plan, it's very easy to kind of waste time doing things that might not be moving you forwards. Yeah, or perhaps getting the wrong experience or the wrong education, perhaps. And it's easy to be overwhelmed with all the possibilities, right? There's so many different steps you could be taking. And that might slow you down, and it might even mean you give up altogether. And the solution really here is to create a plan which outlines the experience and training needed for your target role and to work on steps, in the right order to move forward with clarity. And then thirdly, the third obstacle that we see very regularly is a lack of confidence, which can lead to feeling like a bit of an outsider or even an imposter. We've all heard about imposter syndrome, and it's very common within conservation, just like other sectors. And that can really drain your confidence further. And it can mean that you make slow progress. It means that you might wait too long to make your move. And it might mean that you're not really selling yourself well too, through applications and interviews to secure those job offers that we all need. Okay. The solution here, I believe, is not going it alone. Okay. And ensuring you have the knowledge and confidence to sell yourself to employers. Okay, so let's take a second. I'd love, again, jump into the chat for this one, please. Now, when you think about your career, which of the following obstacles might you feel might be holding you back from landing a conservation job? Is it clarity? Do you feel that perhaps you don't have the clarity as to which job to target? If so, you could write clarity. Okay. Could it be that you don't have a plan in place to become employable, in which case you could write plan? Or could it be no confidence to make it all happen, in which case you could write confidence? Okay, which one of those three really do you feel like represents you? And it could be, a combination of them also. I can see combination, clarity. Yeah, I can see all of them. Absolutely. Yeah, very common. Winston, all of them. Clarity, Richard, Jenny, plan, overwhelm, Ruth. Absolutely. Yeah, it can be overwhelming. Can't it? There's so many different options here. Yeah, 1 and 3, Torre. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah, confidence, Helen. Absolutely. Yeah, as a career switcher, it's scary. It can be scary, absolutely, and it can feel like an imposter, an outsider too. Thank you all for sharing. That's great. Lovely. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, when we think about the ideal world situation, okay, then really what we'd like to feel like is something a bit more like this. Yeah. With clarity, with a plan, and with confidence to land the conservation job that you're working towards. Yeah. So let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about tackling that first one. So if you felt like clarity might have been a bit of an obstacle for you, then hopefully we're going to help you to kind of to get more clear, okay, over the next 5 minutes or so. So let's start with how you might tackle clarity as a barrier in your career. Now, first of all, okay, in order to get clear, you really need to be able to identify your target job, to understand, the different jobs that are available, to understand yourself in order to give you that career direction and your clarity. A mistake we often see with people taking in their career is being too much of a generalist, okay, and never really becoming competitive for a specific role. And this can lead to really kind of poor success and frustration and burnout. I think if you think about conservation a bit like sort of finding the right event at going to the Olympics, okay, to me that is a useful metaphor, okay. If all these Olympians you can see here on screen didn't specialize and find the right role for themselves personally, do you think they'd have won many medals? No, and the same is true in your career, really. If you don't find the right event for you and double down and become good at it, you're always going to be up against someone who really has. You're going to be up against, the Chris Hoys of the world with, amazing physique and built for cycling. He found the right event that suited his physique and doubled down, became good at it. Okay. Same is true in your career. If you're too much of a generalist, and you've spread yourself too thin, if you go for every job available, or if you go for every event of the Olympics, you're going to be up against people who have really become good and competitive and it can be hard to compete against. Now, another metaphor I think that really helps when thinking about the importance of a niche is there's a concept in gardening called right plant, right place. Okay. Which means that plants thrive when put into the right conditions. Okay. You need to know, how much sun and how much water and soil and what type of pH and, cold tolerance, etc. you need before you can put the right plants in the right place. And it's the same in your career. You need to understand yourself really well first before you can understand where best to focus your job hunt and where you would thrive within your career personally, because we're all different, right? And the final metaphor, I think, hopefully, is driving the metaphors home. Okay, is if you're a lumberjack and you're seeking to fell a tree, which might not be the most ecological thing, but hopefully we're doing it sustainably, right? So if you go around, just tapping lots of trees, one at a time, one after the other, you're likely to fell one, right? The same is true. You need to kind of focus on one and really work on it. And the same is true in the job hunt too. Okay. Really having focus and having clarity and becoming good at something is so important. So if identifying your target job is really important, how do you do it? Okay. So we see two aspects in defining a job. Okay. And let me show this full on screen. Okay. We see causes, and these are the causes you want to tackle in your career, things like, marine conservation, rewilding, things like that. Okay. And we'll talk a bit more about that in a second. We also see the role, about how are you going to tackle those causes? What role will you play? Will you be a scientist or will you be a fundraiser or a communicator or a project manager, etc.? Now, causes often linked to knowledge of a subject. Okay. So you know a lot about marine conservation or rewilding, whereas roles are often linked to skills in doing certain tasks. Now, for some, one is more important than the other, and they can be combined. Okay. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. But when we think about careers, often people come about it thinking about the what, the job or the role or the employer and things like that. But really, just as important is the why. It's the issues we care about and we want to contribute towards. Okay. So sometimes, dissatisfaction isn't about the work itself, it's about a misalignment in your purpose. You might be great at your job, okay, but not feeling really fulfilled because of what it's serving, okay, and the purpose that sits behind it. The same skills can feel really very different depending on the cause that you have behind them. And Lloyd, our communications coach, I think is a really good example of that. He was working in communications in the corporate sector, very good at his job and not loving it because of the cause, switched to become a communicator within conservation, and it really kind of unlocked greater purpose for him. Now, causes can help give direction and meaning in your career choices. So once you know your why, the what and how often become much easier to navigate. And you can kind of see some examples here of causes on screen, and they can be almost infinite. We're all different. We all care about different things. Okay. So things like animal welfare, climate change, community conservation, ecotourism, marine rewilding, sustainability, barn owls, Fijian wildlife, earthworms. It might be so many different things that you individually personally care about. But how do you identify the causes that you care about and might want to tackle in your career? Well, look, I'm going to read out these questions here, and this is where I'm going to encourage you to make some notes, okay, very briefly. So as I read down the following, just take a note of your answers and reflect on the questions, your answers to these questions. So firstly, what campaigns or petitions have you supported? Are there certain things that you really get behind, okay, when it comes to campaigns and petitions? And that could give you a bit of an idea as to what your cause might be. Which conservation charities do you love? Do you support the RSPB here in the UK, which might mean you have a leaning towards bird conservation, perhaps? Or there are other conservation charities that you really get behind. What causes are they tackling? What causes have you supported as a volunteer? Okay, that's a really interesting one. Okay, and what causes perhaps have you even made donations to? Have you made financial contributions towards certain causes? That's a really kind of elevated sense as well. And then finally, and I love this one, what issues make your blood boil? Okay. Keep a note of your responses to these questions because they're going to be useful in a minute, these causes. Okay. So those are causes. So if the causes provide the why, okay, then the roles really provide the what. What skills will be using in your role, okay, to be playing to help the causes that you really care about. Now, in conservation careers, as we sort of said, we've listed 40,000 different job titles, and with so many different roles available within conservation, we've simplified them into 11 key roles. Okay. And let me put them a little bit bigger on your screen. So, as I talk through these quickly, I want you to record the ones that really excite and interest you the most. Okay. And I'll go quite quickly. So, just take a note. Which ones excite or interest you the most? Okay. So, first up, conservation communicator. Are you really interested in raising conservation's profile through being a communicator? Through it might be writing blogs, news stories, presenting webinars, podcasts. Are you the next, David Attenborough? Are you a skilled communicator? Is that something that you really care about? Could you be an ecologist? Could you be someone who often works to ensure ecologically sensitive developments? Okay, you're good at doing habitat and species surveys, perhaps for protected species, and advising clients upon what they can and can't do within ecological law. Are you an economist? Could you be interested in putting a value on nature? Are you a numbers person? Are you a financial person? Can you help us to value nature and to therefore better protect it? Perhaps you're an educator. Are you interested in increasing awareness and support for nature? As an educator of either children or even of adults too. Okay. Are you a fundraiser? Do you want to raise money for nature, the finances that we dearly need to help grow the movement faster, quicker, and have more impact? Perhaps you're a land manager in the waiting. Perhaps you want to protect key sites for nature, whether that be a warden or in nature. Maybe you want to kind of really get your hands dirty. Maybe that's important to you. Could you be an organizational manager? Do you want to run organizations that conserve nature? Okay. And be really part of the kind of management and support structure behind the scenes that help to deliver the impact. Perhaps you're a policy advocate. Maybe you want to save wildlife through the law, or maybe you're a project manager as well. Maybe you want to save wildlife one project at a time. But ultimately, are you a scientist? Do you want to answer really key questions to tackle biodiversity loss using the kind of scientific method? Or finally, perhaps you're a wildlife carer. Perhaps you want to care for wildlife and a zoo, a sanctuary, or maybe a veterinary clinic or something like that. Which ones of these really excite or interest you the most? Okay, just write them down. So hopefully you'll have a bit of a clearer picture now about the potential roles and causes to help to give you greater clarity in your career. Now, the great thing is they can be combined to create numerous, almost infinite numbers of pathways into the sector to start and help name your conservation job. Okay. So here's some example pathways in front of you. Perhaps, you want to be a fisheries scientist. Okay. A scientist or a biologist who studies areas where humans interact with fish, or maybe you're a climate change policy advocate, a conservationist who advocates for action to address climate change, or maybe you're a rewilding project manager, project manager who develops or implements rewilding projects. As you can see, kind of from these examples, you can really start to combine them, to create different niches within the conservation sector. And really, these possibilities are endless. So I want you to take a minute and take a second and just, take your top cause, okay, and take your top role and post your job title that it creates into the chat. I'd love to kind of see that. I'm going to share the chat as we do that as well. So what are the roles and causes, and what do your job titles look like? Land management, communicator, especially visual design, marine conservation, volunteering with the Sussex Dolphin Project right now. So you perhaps know Thea and Lloyd. Wonderful. Now, as you're doing that, and thank you for posting them in, I want you to kind of bear a few things in mind. Okay. One is it's okay to specialize in either just a cause or just a role. Okay. You don't have to combine them. Okay. And I've seen examples of that in here. Right? Curlew field worker. I love that, Charlotte. I love curlews. So you might want to just work on curlews, for instance, and you don't really care if you're a project manager, a fundraiser, or whatever, or you might want to just be a communicator. You don't really mind so much about the cause. Now, nothing is ever set in stone as well. You can always change your pathway as you go. So, as you change, develop, and learn about yourself. And really just bear in mind, a pathway, it provides direction, bit of a compass, but it's okay to kind of stray off the path. Okay. And to be open to other opportunities that might come along in your job hunt, in your career. So don't be too blinkered. Just use it as something to help you move forwards, And then finally, just bear in mind, that roles can often intersect and be combined. So, like, for example, if you're a scientist, okay, then very often you're involved in communications, you're delivering talks and papers and so forth, and also fundraising. You're raising money for the next project, the next grants. Conversely, as a communicator, you might be working closely with scientists as well, okay, to promote their work. So there's lots of overlap and combinations within them. Seen some amazing roles dropping in here. We've got an urban nature scientist ecologist, Fabio, land manager and MEL specialist. That's monitoring, evaluation, and learning. I think I've got that right. Joel, wildlife rehab educator, policy advocate, a marine mammal scientist. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so marine mammal scientist, fantastic. Okay, well, thank you for sharing. Keep thinking, keep sharing, keep mulling them over, and think about how you can combine those different causes and roles, okay, to kind of help to give you a bit of clarity as to what your niche might be. So let's go back to the framework then. I'm going to grab a quick drink as we do. Now, the second obstacle we mentioned is having no plan for your career, or a plan that's perhaps not as solid as it could be. So what does a solid plan look like? Okay, well, we believe after 13 years of supporting, thousands of people in their conservation career development and talking to hundreds of leaders, and about their journeys and their advice, we've learned that a good plan looks something like this. And we call this the conservation pathway. Okay. All the way from going right over there to reflection and understanding yourself right through to getting hired and conserving and being a professional conservationist. And it's really, I think, what's been lacking in the sector. It's been a core part of our mission here at Conservation Careers, really, since we established Conservation Careers way back when, okay, in helping conservationists achieve career success, whatever success means to you. Now, the pathway is deliberately squiggly, okay? We believe that careers in conservation, they're not really straight ladders, okay? Ladders assume linear progression and clear rungs, and conservation careers rarely work like that. Ecosystems thrive when conditions are right. We talked about right plant, right place. And I believe that, careers are the same. You need clarity and skills and support, and timing really matters. Okay. So having access to what you need and when you need it, but the clarity to know what your next step might be is really important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through each of these steps in turn, okay, fairly quickly. And as I do, I want you to keep a note of how solid you feel on each step. So I'm going to go through reflect, re-explore, immerse, plan, experience, train, okay, apply, interview, hidden behind me, and conserve, okay. And as we do, I want you to write down on each one of these steps, keep a note just for yourself, okay. Do you have this step locked in, or are you on shaky ground? Okay, so locked in or shaky ground. And as I go through each step, I'm going to mention a little bit about how you can get help through conservation careers as well as we go. So let's start with reflect, okay. So as we've discussed already, the foundation of a happy, impactful career and a successful career is finding the job which suits you, one that suits, what you love to do and what you're good at doing, and learns from your past. For that, you need to really have completed some really good, solid career reflections and good questions to ask yourself. You'll see here on screen, what have you enjoyed doing in your career today and what do you dislike so far? What can you do really well and what do you love doing? Really important. You could be really good at something, but you really hate it, right? You're looking for that kind of Venn overlap of doing well and love doing. What does your vision of a successful career look like? Have you got clarity as to what a successful career perhaps looks like in 5 years' time? What are your career values? Really important. What are the values in your career that really mean something to you? And what do you need within your career to thrive? Now, just make a note. Is this all locked in? Are you happy with this or is it on shaky ground? Just keep a note for yourself. And if you're on shaky ground, just to flag, our conservation career Kickstarter is really designed to help you here. Right. Next up, step two, explore. Okay. Now, career pathways are where you can use your skills and knowledge and enjoy yourself really to contribute to a cause you really care about, an environment within which you thrive. And pathways, we're looking for a pathway really that fits you like a glove, ideally, making you happier and more motivated and enjoyable. So how do you explore what the options might be? What role might fit you? Questions to ask are, what conservation issues do you care most about? We've talked about that already. We're starting to kind of lean into the causes. Which types of roles sound exciting to you? Again, we've talked about that a little bit already. Start to touch on that. So hopefully you're getting some clarity around that too. What resources might you want to learn more about? What resources you're going to need, to help you to learn more about your chosen area and to explore it more? And what is your niche? What might it look like? What is the role or the cause combinations that might suit you? Again, is this locked in or on shaky ground? Just keep a note for yourself. Okay. And much of this was started on today. But again, the Kickstarter is a really good place to kind of go deeper on this if this is something you want to explore a bit further. Now, step three is about immersing yourself in the reality of the work that you're interested in. And this really is where curiosity turns into understanding. Okay, so what roles keep appearing that catch your eye? Okay, what pattern really matters here? More than one-off interest. What are you learning from? Yeah, podcasts and blogs and newsletters and the people that you follow. Not just what sounds impressive, but what genuinely holds your attention. And who could you speak to who's already doing this work? Short, informal conversations are often far more useful than job descriptions to help you here. Immersion helps to replace the assumptions, with insight. That and that alone it can save you months of uncertainty. So again, is this locked in or are you feeling on shaky ground? Again, no right or wrong and no judgment. Just keep a note for yourself. Okay. And again, the Kickstarter is another great place if you want help immersing yourself intentionally, okay, in different career pathways and sort of try before you buy. Now, the fourth step is plan. Okay. And this is where interest becomes direction. So, what's the most realistic focus for you right now? Not just forever, just next. You've hopefully got some early ideas from our exploration of causes and roles here, but what would meaningful progress look like for you over the next 6 or 12 months? And what's missing between where you are right now, and where your target role is? Planning isn't really about, locking yourself in. It's about giving yourself something to work towards. Yeah, we keep talking about direction. That's so important. So, again, when it comes to planning, step four, are you really locked in on all this stuff? Or are you on shaky ground? Again, keep that note. And if you're on shaky ground, again, the Kickstarter actually is a really good place to be helping you kind of working through these planning steps. That's a core foundation of what the Kickstarter's there for. We'll talk a bit more about that at the end. Anyway, so experience, step five. This is where a lot of people get stuck or burnt out. Okay. Now, experience isn't about doing everything. As you'll probably remember from the beginning, then it's about building the right experience and getting the right evidence. Okay. So do what experience you already have that demonstrates your fit for the particular role that you're leaning into, even if it doesn't happen to be from conservation? Do you know how you could build relevant experience now, or which experience matter most for your target role? Not what looks impressive, but what is actually relevant. Yeah. Being strategic here really saves huge amounts of time and effort. And if you need help there, we're soon to launch our new How to Get Conservation Experience course. It's all in the can. We're just polishing the edits right now. It's coming out really soon. Now, step six. Okay, 6 out of 9. So is all about training, and strengthening key skills through training. And as with all the steps, training works really best when it's purposeful and intentional. So, questions to answer here are, what skills would genuinely make you more employable for the roles you're targeting? What learning would be best to support your pathway, whether it's courses or mentoring or practical application? Which learning will give you the best return for the effort that you put in? And we've got a growing range of expert-led certificated courses here at Conservation Careers. I've already seen a couple of our experts in residence in the chat as well, David and Kate. And if there's anyone else there, welcome too. Our trainings cover conservation communications, certification in conservation standards, project management design, rewilding, community-based conservation, both new courses. We've got fundraising for conservation projects. We've got marine conservation coming soon, conservation education and conservation science also, and many more coming down the road. So if these trainings overlap your particular pathway, then we have them available for you already right now. Now, step 7, apply. This is where focus really matters. Do you know which specific roles you're applying for? Do you have, or you put in vague applications, which can lead to vague outcomes often? How tailored is your CV and cover letter for those roles? And are you applying with focus and intention, or volume and hope? Fewer, better applications almost always beats dozens of generic ones. Okay, so really bear that in mind. Now, we have a detailed training how to apply for conservation job. Okay, and also we cover this as part of the Kickstarter as well. So we've got loads of good resources around this. When we review applications at Conservation Careers, we see something like 80 to 90% of applications really are not good enough. Okay, and they're not going to get through to interview. And there's some very simple steps you can follow to refine and polish them. And that's really what we're very good at doing here at Conservation Careers through those trainings. Now, the 8th step is interview. Now, at this stage, the question isn't, are you good enough? Okay. It's more about, can you communicate your value clearly? The key things to ask yourself is, can you explain your pathway confidently? Why this role and why now? Do you have clear examples that demonstrate your skills and experience? And can you show why this role makes sense for you, not just why you want it? Now, again, are you on shaky ground here, or are you on solid ground? Just write down locked in or shaky ground. And again, our Kickstarter can really help here. We talk about interviews as part of our Kickstarter. The final step is to conserve, and it's often the most overlooked one. Okay. This is about building a career that you can sustain. Okay. Questions to ask are, let me just make it a little bit bigger. How are you contributing to conservation in a way that feels really meaningful to you? And what helps you stay motivated and healthy and grounded over time? And how will you continue learning and developing as your career evolves? A successful conservation career isn't just about getting hired. Okay. It's about staying well and effective once you are. So important. It's about well-being as much as impact. Now, our accelerator is designed to help you there. We teach this at Cambridge University and have done for the last six, seven years. Okay. And we have a program, the accelerator, all around that. So that's the pathway in summary. Okay. We don't need to work through all 9 steps at once. The goal really is to simply understand where you are, okay, right now, and what your next most sensible step is. Now, we mentioned the conservation pathway is a useful assessment tool to see where you are and where you should focus on next. And what we're going to do is, again, take a second and post into the chat, okay, which step of the process that you can see in front of you, okay, do you feel you should focus on? Pick the earliest one that you feel on shaky ground with. Okay. So if you have anything locked in already, that's great. Congratulations. Okay. You're moving the right direction already. But if you have gaps to address, and it might be all of them, okay, ask yourself, what's the next step to take, okay, to avoid overwhelm, okay? So what are we saying? We're seeing, Kalifos, you're saying immerse, okay. Mrs. Kaz, you're saying, I saw there, was it interview? Yeah, great. So you're right through towards the end. You're ready to go. Applications from Charlotteburg as well. Bill, you're on apply. Bill Butler, welcome, friend. Okay, explain. You guys are going so fast. Yeah. Okay, great. I'm watching through them all. Okay, and you can sort of see them flowing here on the screen too. Yeah, lots of 7s and 8s and 1s to 5s, all the way through the different parts of the pathway. Great. Okay. Thank you for sharing, and do keep sharing, do keep reflecting on this also. Now, so let's just do a quick recap then. So many aspiring and professional conservationists, they can suffer from a lack of clarity, right, in their career. Okay. Whether it be clarity or even planning or indeed confidence, which can really stop you from moving into or upwards within your conservation career. Having a target job, okay, one which can be a combination of a cause and a role or just one or the other, okay, it can be a real foundational step to moving forwards and gaining that clarity and gaining that confidence too. From there, delivering a plan to ensure you identify and secure the right experience and training can be really key before understanding how to create great applications and deliver great interviews that get you hired. Now, we've got tons of resources in conservation careers within our community and with our trainings as well to give you that clarity and to give you that confident plan. And I just want to ask briefly, do you feel you're getting value out of today? If you are, if you can give me a thumbs up in the chat, that would be lovely. And I've got a couple of quick questions to ask them. The first question, I'll put it here on screen. There you go. Great. Is, yeah, what was the most useful thing you think you've learned today so far? Like, what are you carrying with you? Okay, having learned about the different obstacles, the different niches you could explore, the pathway where you might be on the pathway, what your next step might be. Okay, take a second. If you can drop it into the chat, I'd love to see that. Thank you for all the thumbs up. I'm just seeing them all drop through. That's lovely. Thank you. Thank you, Sophie. We have got this. Okay, so Moon, next step. Let me grab that one quickly. There we go. Okay, you need more information on how to put a compelling application package in. Okay, so it's all about applications. So that's the step where you are. So how you feel you're ready for your chosen job, you're competitive, but you're perhaps not explaining, articulating well enough in an application to get through to interviews. Very common, and actually one of the easiest steps to overcome to actually how you put in good applications as well. And we have lots of trainings and advice on that. Okay. What else are we seeing in here? I'm seeing Maria, regaining and reigniting your confidence. Oh, that's so nice to read. Okay, going back to foundations. Okay, it's really nice. Confidence is everything. With confidence comes motivation, and then you just need to know what your next step is. And we're here to support you. We've got you as well. Okay. What else we got? I'm seeing in here, Kat, as well, how conservation careers can help with applications. Absolutely, we can. So if applications are something that is really important to you all, then we're very happy to support. And we have lots more trainings on that. You'll also find webinars on that too. We've got free guides too on our pages as well that you can actually download and use. Okay. Okay, great. Okay. Well, thank you. Well, keep reflecting. Okay. And keep thinking what you're taking away with you, because that's going to be really helpful, important to you. Okay. My next question is, would you mind, may I have permission to explain how we can help you more? Okay, I've touched a little bit about how we can help some of the resources we've got available with you, but I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Would you like, and do I have your permission actually to explain a little bit more about how we can help you? Dealing with rejection, Lisa. Yeah, it's really important. Rejection does come along as well. Yeah, in our pathway. It's all about what we learn from that, okay, and how we respond to that. Yeah, I'm glad, Zoe, that you found the cause and the role framework important too. Thank you for that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yes. So I'm getting a few yeses. Yeah. There's a tiny delay. So thank you, Rebecca and Charlberg and Sophie and Lisa and Hannah and Joel and Torres and Sarah and everyone else. Thank you so much. Okay. Well, let's talk about this and let's talk a little bit more about how we can help. Okay. Take a second just to look at this image because I find this image quite striking, actually. Okay. This image shows an average human life broken down into weeks. When you see an average human life like this, you'll see at the beginning, the preschool and school there in yellow, work there, career red in the middle, okay, and retirement there, green at the end. When you see this, it's a quiet reminder, really, just how much of our life really is spent working, okay, and also really how short lives can be. The biggest cost in a career usually isn't necessarily choosing the wrong path, but I believe it's often staying unsure for longer than we need to. Yeah. So I think the big question is really, how can you apply what you've learned today to your career in conservation? I think you've got two options really. First option really is you can do this on your own. Okay, absolutely. We've shared the process and you can take it and you can run with it. Okay. However, I believe, that really the best way to do a process like the pathway to work forwards with clarity and with a plan, with confidence, is to do it with others. People who can inspire you and support you and guide you along the way. Those with experience that you need and the resources that you need in order to stay on track. Okay. And to stay motivated as well, to keep moving forwards with that calm and that confidence that we're looking for, and we'd love to be here to help you and to help you to do that. Now, I've mentioned a couple times about the Conservation Career Kickstarter. So really where to start? Well, everything we've covered today is about helping you to move out of uncertainty. And for most people, the most helpful next step isn't about doing everything. It's about starting the right place. And that's exactly why we created the Conservation Career Kickstarter. It's really designed to give you a clear, supported starting point and a plan to move forward with confidence. Okay. Now, the Kickstarter is a step by step system that mirrors the pathway that we just worked through. It helps you to get clear on your direction, to prioritize what matters, and to identify each meaningful next step. It's designed really specifically for people who don't yet feel fully confident or clear, okay, and not sure how to move forwards, or are perhaps struggling with applications and interviews also. Now, you don't need to be ready to start because the Kickstarter really is there to help you to get ready, okay, and meets you where you are. Over the last sort of 6 or 7, or there it is again, 6, 7 years, we've supported thousands of conservationists through our Kickstarter process that we call them Kickstars. And many people have gone on to secure roles within conservation as a result. But just as importantly, people tell us they feel clearer, they feel more confident about their direction. And we've helped people like Rosie, you can see here on screen, who secured, a job at Fauna and Flora International. In fact, she got 2 job offers at the same time and chose Fauna and Flora. We've helped people like Naomi as well, actually, who got a job at WWF, and the coaching we gave her through the Kickstarter course helped to give her that focus and that plan that helped her ultimately to get that job that she's been dreaming of and wanting. We also helped Matt as well, finally, who actually dropped out the Kickstarter early because he very quickly secured the job he was looking for, working on his target species, his dream species sloths in Costa Rica, okay? And now they're flying in their careers, as with many other people too. Now, the Kickstarter sits inside the CC Path, okay, which is something we've literally just launched this week. And what it does, it means you don't just get one course anymore. You get the support beyond that first step and that first course, because the CC Path includes everything that you can kind of see here in front of you, okay? So it includes the Kickstarter, yes, but it includes all our career courses as well. So it includes how to get a conservation job. So it talks about applications, our step-by-step process for doing applications, that's included. It also includes our accelerator program for mid-career conservation professionals. Also, how to present and do public speaking for conservationists too. So all our career courses. It also includes all our certificated courses as well that we talked about this evening. It includes rewilding and project management, and soon to come marine and community-based conservation and fundraising, okay, and communications advanced and foundation and conservation science, and so much more. All our certificated programs are included in the CC Pass too. Again, wherever you're on the pathway, we have something to kind of help you through the CC Pass. It includes all our events, all our resources, our incredible CC Pro community of over 2,000 professionals and aspiring conservationists all around the world. And we're in there every day supporting one another. It includes all our jobs, all our experiences, funding and training listings, the 80,000 jobs per year now that we're sharing through our site, you'd have full access to. And it includes all our experts in residence, which I'll tell you about in a second when you need it. So we encourage you to kind of start with the Kickstarter, okay? Don't get overwhelmed. And then the CC Pass really supports you then as you move forward. You don't have to do everything. You're guided to what makes most sense to you personally through the CC Pass. So what do our experts in residence look like, you lovely bunch? Well, there's me, but then there's also, you can see here, there's Christy Foster, who's our head of coaching at Conservation Career. She's been with us for 7-8 years now. We also have Lloyd Gofton. You've already heard about Lloyd already today. He's our expert in residence for communications, our 2 communications trainings. We've got Kate Evans, Dr. Kate Evans, who I believe is in the comments. I think I saw you, Kate, who's our expert in residence for fundraising and also soon conservation science. We've got Felix Chabula, who's our expert in residence for conservation standards, project management and design. We've also got Helen Gibbons, our expert in residence for community-based conservation, one of our latest courses, along with our latest course in rewilding, and our expert in residence, Pedro Fribert. And then we also have Dr. David Johnson, who's our expert in residence for conservation education, another course that's coming very soon. We have our expert in residence for public speaking, the amazing Tara Phillips, TEDx speaker and speaker coach. And we've got David Schiffman as well, Dr. David Schiffman, expert in residence for marine, who I think I also saw in the comments today as well. Welcome, both of you. So you gain access to all our team of experts as and when you need support through them as you're going through their courses. Now, before we move to Q&A, I want to kind of show you, where you can go if you'd like support turning today's clarity into action. So everything we covered today, the myth, the pathway, the reflection, is really about helping you to move out of uncertainty and into more intentional progress, okay? So for most people, the next best step would be the Kickstarter, okay? Now the Kickstarter, the next cohort starts As you can see here on screen, it starts on Saturday, the 31st of January. That's this Saturday coming down the road really soon. Okay. And enrollment closes on Friday, the 30th. That's this Friday. That way, everyone begins together. Okay. And everyone starts to build momentum together, which is really important. The Kickstarter, it sits within the CC Pass, as we've explained. And the cost for that is it's only, I have to really say that, it's only £49 per month or $65 or 58 euros. Now that's billed quarterly and it includes a 7-day free trial. So you can explore it without any pressure. Okay. You got 7 days to kind of give it a whirl. Okay. Now, before we move to questions, I'll just encourage you to kind of do one simple thing. If the Kickstarter feels like it might be helpful to you, okay, then do feel free to kind of open the page. I've kind of shared a QR code there, but you can see, conservation-careers.com/kit. Okay. Have a little look at the page while it's still fresh. And if you don't need to decide anything today, just read it now, rather than later when doubt has had a chance to creep back in. Oh, okay. Well, that is the end of the content and delivery for today. I think we are absolutely bang on time as well, which is really good. We've had the full hour together. I've really enjoyed it too. I'm now going to hang around and just answer questions for you. Okay. So if you've got any questions you'd like to ask, I'll be here for a while. Okay. I'm going to just drop that there. So if you've got a question, please do drop it into the chat. Okay. Keep it to like one sentence, keep it quite short and pithy. Make it easy for me to read and therefore to have a good chance of answering. Okay. And I'll just answer them as I kind of see them come in and as I see kind of questions or even themes of questions if we've got large volumes of questions coming in. Okay. But if you're kind of checking out at this point as well, I just want to thank you again for kind of spending your time with us here this evening. It's been really nice having you with us. So it's really great having you. Kaz, I can see you're unemployed, no fancies. Of course, that's fine. Okay, we've got lots of free resources too. So if that's you also, then we have a CC free membership. You can go to our website/join. In there, you'll find a free membership. And in there, we give away lots of resources, advice. You also have access to our community in some areas of our community too. Okay. So I can see a few questions dropping in. Thank you very much for that. I'm just going to scroll back up and also grab a little drink as well while we're here. Howdy, David. Howdy, howdy, howdy. There's our marine expert. So I'm just going to pick a question and then first question I can see. I'm just going to pick this from here. So we've got Annika. Yeah, Annika Dixon. Okay. Having a hard time finding resource and training support within Ontario. Okay. So specifically closer to Ottawa region for anything related to wildlife rehab, conservation, or research. Okay. A really good starting point for something like that, again, as a member of our CC Pass and also CC Pro, our mid-tier membership that doesn't include the full trainings, is you can actually go through our archive of expired jobs, our job archive from the last 13 years. In there, you can search by locations. You could put Canada, you could put Ottawa, Ontario. And in there, you could also then filter down by keywords like wildlife rehab or research or conservation, just see who's hiring and who's active within your area. With 110, 120,000 conservation jobs, it's a really good resource, a really good library for doing research to answer questions just like that, actually. So that's a really good place to be going. So if you just signed up to be a regular member, or if you indeed join CC Pass, you get access to that archive and you can then start to pull together a target list of employees, then focusing on your research. Thanks for your question, Annika. Kate, I can see Kate. I've not read it. I'm going to put it up anyway. So if you have the CC Pro membership, you also have to get the pass to access these courses. Yes. So the pass would be an upgrade from CC Pro. You'd still have access to everything that you have within CC Pro. For everyone listening, there are 3 levels. Okay. There's CC free. Okay. Which gives you access to our newsletter. You can also share your resume on our website. You can also set up job alerts as well and gain access to some free resources. CC Pro, which Kate, it sounds like you might be a member of. Okay. That's our mid-tier membership. Really, that unlocks access to our community much more. Okay. So you can be involved in our community, come along to our events, Q&As. You can also join our podcast recordings, our pro chats, as we call them. So you can actually talk to our podcast guests and ask questions of them too as part of networking. You also get access to all our live jobs that go through our website too. That's really CC Pro. CC Pass, what the Pass does is it unlocks all the trainings. Okay. Whereas previously we were selling them as single trainings, the certificated trainings you can still buy as single trainings, or you can buy all the trainings as part of the Pass. Okay. So yes, it would be an upgrade from CC Pro to the Pass, Kate. Yeah. Thank you for asking that. I hope that's clear. I'm just going to pick another one that I can see in front of me. Amanda, do you think your certified courses like fundraising are highly recognizable enough to secure a job with? Okay. Really good question. Okay. So we have this growing list of certified courses. Okay. And there are, I think we have 7 or 8 now that are growing more. What we've done is we've done a review of what employers are looking for within the conservation industry and what they're hiring for across lots of different job types. And we started with the really important, the 3 pillar jobs that we see, okay, within the sector. Let me put myself up like that. There we go. I'm going to put this over there as well. Okay, so the jobs are, I'm sorry, I've just lost your question. There it is. Sorry. Bear with me. There we go. There we go. So the three kind of the most common skills that we see employers looking for are fundraising, communications, and project management. Those are the kind of the foundational skill sets that are found across lots of different job types. So whatever you go into, they're likely to be highly valued for that particular job type, and we see them as important for most people as you kind of entering the kind of conservation sector. Are they recognized? Well, what I can say is conservation careers is very widely recognized. We're very well known and recognized within the industry, and we've been running these courses now for 5 years, fundraising, I think something like that, communications and project management also. We trained hundreds of students through that, including organizations like WWF, like RSPB and others. So, we've trained professionals within the industry and they've gone on to secure jobs too from that. Now, it's not a guarantee of success. We can't say that, of course. Everyone's different. Everyone's starting from a different starting point and aiming for a different destination also, but they are really good, solid foundational training that's been built upon what employers are absolutely looking for. And we're delivering skills and trainings that actually weren't often available beforehand. So yeah, they're really kind of highly sought after and valued within the industry. Okay. Just an interesting one I can just see right in front of me as a question. Where do you see the role of AI in the future of conservation careers? Yeah. I mean, I'd love to hear in the comments what people think of that also. I mean, I think as with every sector, it's going to change every industry, isn't it, really? It's certainly helping to do so many different things that I could see. I can see just off the top of my head, things like data analysis and research. Big data is a huge thing nowadays. We've got so much more data than ever before. And again, tech like drones and satellite imagery and, eDNA and all sorts is just generating a lot of data and information for us. And AI is really good and helping to understand that. It can help within the job hunt too. It can help to identify your niche. You can be a coach you can speak to. It can help with applications too and speed things up. It can help you to prepare for an interview. It can help with almost everything, I think, at some level. So really it's about how do we engage in it ethically and how do we use it ethically in order to kind of, to deliver greater impact for wildlife. But in terms of like the efficiencies of the economies of scale, then I think it could be a really kind of useful superpower for us as well to be leaning into and benefiting from. Hannah, would you say being a CC member would be useful for wanting to find a job in Spain? I haven't seen many advertisements there. In terms of job hunting, I'll be really honest. Right now we are mainly focused on English speaking countries. Yeah, so really the UK, America, yeah, Canada, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand. Yeah, largely countries that are English speaking dominated is where we're serving right now. We have aspirations absolutely to expand into different countries and different languages, but right now we do share some jobs from Spain, but not very many. No. So, being a member of CC for you who are particularly focused in Spain is much more about the trainings and getting ready and the support and the community that we can offer you. The Kickstarter, I should say, actually is offered in Spanish also. We do have a Spanish version of it that we can make available if that's something that's of benefit to you. Okay, but thank you very much for your question. Is the Kickstarter course live? It's not live. It's self-paced. Okay, it's 3 modules, 17 videos. You go at your own pace, and it sits alongside a workbook. And as you have questions and need support, we're there to help you and support you. Either come into like a regular Q&A. We have regular Q&As as part of our community, but you can also just drop questions also into the course, and myself or one of our staff will be there to help and support you through it. So it's guided, own pace. Yeah, I hope that's clear. Bill, welcome, Bill. our friend, are there any courses that you would recommend for a veteran of conservation careers? This really comes down, I know you've done the Kickstarter, Bill. So, I would encourage you to think about your target niche where you're moving into, thinking about what the gaps are, what employers are looking for, what your employment gaps might be, and how you're going to fill them. If we have a course that would support you, which we may well do, that you maybe haven't taken, then great. But you might find there are other things that you might need to take also alongside that. So it really does depend upon where it is you're going. I know you've been leaning towards like helping birds, in the Amazon, in Costa Rica. I know you've been doing lots of communications work too. Do you have clarity of your niche? And then when you reflect upon what employers are looking for within that niche, are you really clear where those gaps are and how you're going to fill them? Okay. If we have courses to fill, then of course we're here to help you. Maria, I'm really pleased you enjoyed it. Thank you. And thank you everyone for kind of hanging around. I know there's an awful lot of questions in here, as you can see. I'm going to just pick them off as I go down. I'm going to pick out obvious ones as we go. But Hannah is in the Kickstarter. Would someone be able to review a resume or assess it to give tips to improve? Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yep. So in our private members community that you would have access to through the CC Pass and as part of the Kickstarter, okay, we have a whole applications area. In there, we have our applications training you can do. We have our applications guide. We have templates for CVs and cover letters and resumes and application forms as well. And in there, you can drop in an application that you're working on live and get feedback on it from the community. How it works is it's kind of like a give back system. So you drop the application in, you then look at someone else's application, give them some feedback, and then that person feeds back to you as well. Myself and other members of the CC team are also in there too. Okay. So we can't guarantee we'll always give feedback, but we are as active as we can be in giving feedback to you. And what's another interesting thing, and it's something we talked about actually to Bill, who's just been on the call there as well recently, is if you fail to get a job and to get through to interview, we still encourage you to kind of share your application, because it might be the thing that's holding you back is the quality of your applications. And the reason you're not landing interviews is because of that. And so by sharing a job you weren't successful for, and perhaps you didn't get feedback from despite asking, okay, we can actually have a look at that as a community and say, actually, it looks like this, and this, could have been improvements that would have helped you, or have you thought about that? So yes, there is an option for that. We also have we have a full paid service as well. If you want a member of Conservation Careers to have a really detailed look at it and a review and sit down for 2 hours and really work through it step by step, provide you feedback on that, we do have that. That's an additional service as well. You'll find if you go to our website under support, we'd list about how we can help you to create applications and also to get ready for interviews as well. Thanks for your question. Okay, I'm just going to scroll down and try and pick some more, spread the love a little bit. You're welcome. Thank you for all the very kind comments, Zoe, and everything. Okay, I'm just picking a random one. I've not read the question fully yet. Many roles I see advertised require some sort of environmental science degree. Is there a specific course that you could recommend that is recognized and or accepted by conservation companies? Yeah, so there are lots of different degrees and master's programs out there. I mean, literally countless, and we have hundreds on our website that you can go through, okay, and look at in your own time that are available. Now, conservationists are typically an educated bunch. When we look at the kind of the highest qualification that a professional conservationist holds, something like 60% of conservationists have a master's degree or higher. Okay, so yes, they're an educated bunch, but having said that, experience can beat education hands down. And what we encourage you to do, Anthony, normally is to actually step back a little bit and actually ask yourself, again, what is the target? What is the goal you're aiming towards, that niche role? Because different jobs have different entry requirements and have different educational requirements too. If you wanted to say go into science, for instance, then actually you probably would need to go through a degree, master's, possibly a PhD, and then into postdocs. It's one of the kind of the few well-trodden pathways even within conservation. But for others, you might not need a master's or a degree or anything in terms of experience could be really more beneficial to you. So I wouldn't want to point you to a specific course, but I would encourage you to really reflect upon the direction of the niche you're looking to work towards, and then review what employers are looking for within that, and speak to people working in that industry and find out actually if you need it or whether you can actually get what they're looking for through other routes. Okay. Now, if you want to do a degree or if you want to do a master's, then absolutely brilliant. They can be really valuable and they can certainly help to drive you forwards. but just take a moment to reflect, take a beat, as to whether that is actually going to be needed for you or not. I hope that's useful. Thank you, Zoe. I'm glad it was useful. William H. Funk, what would you suggest as a means of effectively addressing gaps in employment? In your case, you've been an environmental freelancer, but it doesn't look especially good on your CV. So I guess there's sort of two bits to that one, really. It's like one is how you're presenting yourself on your CV and on your cover letters. And are you actually bespoking every application very carefully to the job in hand? Or perhaps are you reusing your CV and cover letter just verbatim and making it quite hard for someone who's shortlisting to actually understand how you fit the job in hand? Always spend time really carefully kind of matching yourself to the job and spelling out how you meet it. I sort of sense underlying that question that, yeah, it's about how you look on your CV. And then addressing employability gaps. Well, actually, both parts of that question actually come together quite nicely by doing what we call a gap analysis. A gap analysis is something, again, we teach in the Kickstarter, but in summary, what we ask you to do, and you can do this for one job if you're applying, or you can do this for many jobs where you're looking for recurring patterns. When you're getting ready for a career and a niche, we encourage you to do it for like 6 or 7 different jobs. 6 is fine. Okay, so find 6 examples of the job that you're aiming for, okay, on our website or wherever it might be, okay? Bring them together and then summarize the recurring patterns of what the essential and the desirable criteria that they're hiring for, okay? Don't look for the things that are one-off, but look for the recurring patterns. What are they often looking for? That gives you your shopping list of requirements that you need to secure in order to become competitive for that job. List them in a spreadsheet. Along the top of the spreadsheet, okay? So first column is that. Along the top then is put all the experiences and employments that you've had that could provide evidence of your fit for each one of those criteria, okay? So perhaps you've done, it could be a degree or a master's, it could be a volunteer and internship, it could be different jobs that you've had, not just in conservation, but to date, your full employment history, and then cross-reference for every job, each criteria. Just think, do I have examples or evidence of any of this? They're looking for a communicator. Did I do any communications as a volunteer at university or in this job? Okay. That gives you a good 360 view of your career to date. And from that, you can identify a couple of things. One is like the best evidences that you should be bringing front and center in your cover letters and your CVs. Okay. Making it really obvious how you suit the job it is that you're looking to apply for. And the second thing is it shows the gaps. Yeah, it shows you just don't have any communications or fundraising or whatever it is, knowledge of X, Y, and Z. Okay. And that's when you need to kind of dive in about and really try and address those employment gaps. I focused a bit of time on this because I think it's really relevant to many people who might be listening as well. So that's a good process to go through, a gap analysis. It's quite simple, but it's really powerful. And then how you go about filling those gaps, well, it depends what the gap is. You might find an online course. It might be a MOOC. It might be something that we offer. It might be that you need to go and get some experience. That might be better than learning about something, going and doing it. As a volunteer or an intern, it might be going and getting a degree or a master's or whatever it might be. It does depend very much on what it is. Again, experience beats education hands down. So if you get experience of doing the job you want, then that's a great way of filling gaps, okay, as you go. Thank you for your question, William. I'm just going to scroll down. I'm going to scroll down a random amount because there's quite a lot in here and try and pick someone I've not spoken to yet. Briefly, Nick and Steenhuis. Many roles require masters. I'm well liked in interviews, but in the end, I still don't get picked. How necessary is a master's in this field? How can I be competitive without one? I've already spoken to that a little bit, so I won't go into more detail again. It does depend upon the area. Conservation is 60% plus have masters, so they are quite common. I don't believe they are essential. It depends upon the job you're targeting as to whether that's important. I think if you're getting through to interviews, okay, then you're doing lots of things very well. Interviews are often not necessarily saying, are you good enough for this job? Your application often shows you have the experience and the evidence and the education they're looking for. It's often about the fit, actually, about how you present and come across in the interview and the rapport, okay, and that side of things. So if you're getting interviews, take great power from that, if you like. Be really positive. You're in the kind of the home straight, if you like. I'd encourage you to keep going. I'd also encourage you to ask for feedback. Okay, so if you're not getting picked after an interview, then do ask for feedback. Because often from an interview you would get feedback. From an application, very often you wouldn't. So it's really important, ask why and do keep in touch with those people who interviewed you too. Sometimes it can be really hard for them to pick between different people. They liked all of you and they liked you as well, but they gave it to someone else, but they're happy to kind of keep in touch. Okay, so do circle back and just ask them if there anything that would have helped to have strengthened your application or interview, or any feedback they can give you would help you with other applications. It might not be that masters. It might be, but it might not. I sense it might be something else. Okay, so best of luck. Keep going. Related to that, next one down, Mary Nomsa. Thank you for the lovely talk. You're very welcome. Thank you for those kind words. Can you speak about how to prepare for an interview in a job you are approached for rather than applied for, considering that you don't have all the information for the role? Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah, when you're applying for a job, you do have the information largely. Yeah, you can see what the job is, what the criteria would be, and so forth. And you can start to prepare your stories, yeah, your evidence, ready to be, yeah, to be interviewed for. Okay, and that gap analysis I talked about can be a really good starting point from that. Okay, so find those great examples and then working them up into stories. Really, applications and interviews are all about how you tell a story, about how you set the scene, about where you were, what you were doing, what your task was, about what you actually did, about you, not the team, but you individually, and then about actually what was the outcome, what happened as a result. And really, that is the story arc we look to teach as part of applications and also part of interviews. But when you don't know what the job's going to be and you don't have all the details to hand, that is a little bit more tricky, isn't it? So it's quite nice you've been invited to interview for something and approached even. So obviously doing something right. I guess my approach would be to try and find out as much as possible about it. They obviously want to attract you into an interview, they like you. So get as much information to hand as possible. Try and find out what the interview might be, what to expect. Yeah, and glean as much as you can. Otherwise, you're sort of going in a little bit blind. If you are having to go in blind, you don't get anything from them, then just really just spend a bit of time understanding the value that you're bringing to an organization. Yeah, so think about your career to date, look at your CV, look at your annual appraisals and things that you've achieved. Achievements are really important, particularly in that story arc that we talked about a second ago. Often people say, I was here and I did this, and I did that. They sort of forget about the so what and the outcome moment. So you raised X million pounds. What happened as a result of that? What happened with the projects and the species and the habitats, and where is it now? And how does it feed into some bigger picture, maybe a sustainable development goal or something like that? So, yeah, tricky one. Related to that, and again, hopefully something that's of interest to many as well. Thank you for your question, Mary. Is yeah, when you're applying for a job, we have a kind of 10-step program we work people through. One of the early steps is to decide if you want to apply. And part of that, if there's something's not really clear in an interview, in an application, sorry, you're not sure about a specific part of the work and it's really important to you, or you're not sure about a particular part of the application. They didn't mention a CV. Do they want one? Should I send one? Sometimes it's not always clear. And even reading around and doing some research online, doing your homework can't really answer that question. I would always encourage you then to reach out and speak to the employer and say, like, I'm really interested in this job. I'm not really sure about this question. Could you maybe help me, or can I speak to the hiring manager, whoever it might be, and trying to have a bit of a conversation to answer that question. Number one, really important. Number two, it helps to just start building rapport early with that individual so that when your application drops, they might just remember you. It's like, Mary's here. Okay, great. I do remember them. We had a nice conversation and here's their application. I might spend just a few more minutes looking at it actually. So it's a good process to go through, reach out early and ask questions that you can't answer any other way. Yeah, and that could be something, Mary, you could be using too. Thank you for your question. Okay, I'm just going to pick a few more. How are we doing for time? Okay, I'm going to give it 5 more minutes. It'll be 9 o'clock at my end then. Okay, and then we'll wrap things up. So I'm going to just scroll. So I know people have put stuff at the bottom. Okay, picking random. Okay, Logan Hutchinson. What have you seen that is most successful method for demonstrating evidence within only a few pages of CV and a cover letter for the application process? We touched on that a little bit. Okay, go through your gap analysis, find your best examples front and center. Okay, now there are different ways of structuring, particularly CVs and or resumes. Okay, cover letters are fairly sort of structured already, but it depends who you are and how you want to kind of present yourself. There's three main ways of kind of structuring a CV or a resume. There is the kind of chronological approach where you say, this is what I'm doing now, and then I go back in history, date by date. Okay, which can work if you've had a really coherent career that's been working towards a moment in time, which this job might be that you're applying for. There's also what we call like a hybrid, and then there's a functional approach. Now, let's talk about functional. Function is where you put your key skills that are related to the job front and center. Okay, so you don't go like chronological. You say, well, this job's all about communications and fundraising and project management. That's the essential criteria they're hiring against. So I'm going to have sections at the beginning to talk about my communications experience, and I draw from all my best experience and bring them in as stories. Okay. I'm going to do the same for fundraising and project management and communications, and have them front and center and really structure the application, particularly your CV or resume, against what they're looking for specifically. It makes it much easier for an employer to read and just tick boxes and see how you fit rather than having to wade through a chronological history. So particularly for career switchers, that can be quite a good one. And there's something called a hybrid as well, which is sort of a bit of both. You have sections at the beginning and then go into more chronological. Again, we have a free guide on that if you want to kind of dive in a little bit more. That might be useful for you. And in terms of a cover letter, usually it's a standard formal letter, right? It's names, addresses, and dates and titles. And dear sir, madam. First of all, you sort of say the role you're applying for, why you're applying for that role, okay, and why you're interested, and perhaps where you found it as well as a little bit of detail. And then really you want to be kind of laying in your top 3, 4, 5 evidences against their key criteria. Yeah. And you'll be drawing that out of your gap analysis. There'll be a bit more flesh in the bone than what you're showing in your CV, but the two things would relate to one another. And then you'd wrap up and say, you'd welcome an invitation to interview, and you're available to come to interview, that sort of thing, and sign off. I know I'm going fast, but in summary, that is really the nuts and bolts of it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I hope that helps. And yeah, and I wish you good luck with that. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to pick two more questions, I think. Yeah, and then we're going to call it a day. Okay, so okay, you're welcome. Thank you, Logan. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad. Shu by Dubai. Sorry if I got your name wrong. I'm glad. Thank you for going for depth about the resume gap analysis. Yeah, okay, yeah, and we've done a webinar training on that too, so you can probably find that on our channel too. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I think that's a good point to be wrapping up. Okay. Once again, thank you everyone for being here with us. It's been really nice spending a bit of time here together. I've really enjoyed this webinar. Yeah, I really have, like, preparing for it and also delivering it with you there here this evening. If you do want to help and support here in 2026, if you're interested in the Kickstarter, as I've sort of mentioned already, the Kickstarter is open. It closes this Friday and our cohort starts on Saturday. So do check out the CC Pass. In that CC Pass, you will gain access to all our trainings as well. Our career trainings can be accessed anytime, and our certified trainings are going to start on a schedule, okay, on a monthly schedule. We promote them and publish them widely online. Next month, we're going to be holding another webinar about working in conservation communications as well. We're going to deliver some training. Lloyd's going to be coming along for that. So do keep your eyes open. We look forward to seeing you for that. And wherever you are in the world, thank you again for spending your time with us here this evening. Stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you soon, hopefully. All the best. And thank you, everyone, for coming along. Thank you, Bina, Sophie, Natalie, Chatswood, Joanna, Michael, Sebastian, Amos, Miriam, Amias. Yeah, you're very, very kind. And thank you all for being with us. It's been really fun. Henrik as well. Okay, take care, everyone. I'm going to sign off for here. All the very best. Bye now.